ran across these figures a little while back, and then I dove even further and started to dig and do some researching. I don't have all the numbers, but the average number is $11,500 per year. That's per child, age 5 through 18 or whatever, wherever they land for their birth year, birth date, for K through 12 education. That's how much it costs right now, on average. Yes, it's a lot more in places like California and New York and even Minnesota, I believe, Illinois, that kind of stuff. I'm not sure everywhere else, and it's a lot cheaper in places like Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, South Dakota, all that kind of stuff. But on an average, it's $11,500. So why am I saying this? Because it got me thinking. So you have a child that's age 5 through age 18, we'll say might be 17, might be 19, dependent, like I said. So age 5 through 18, you're spending $11,500 a year on that. You, personally, well, you may or may not. I mean, it depends on how much you're getting gouged for taxes, how much they're taken from you to pay what they constitute taxes legally, but it's anything but that in my assessment. So now, as a whole, after the child's done, graduated, done with 12th grade, that will cost $150,000. Yeah, that's a big number. $150,000 for your little 5-year-old to your 18-year-old. That whole scope of them in public education, the government schools, we call it public education, it's government schools, K through 12, for the most part. So it's costing $150,000. So I just got to ask this question and just think about this stuff. Is it worth it? Is that money well spent? Do your children, when they're done at age 18, get graduated, do you look back and say, hey, that was worth $150,000. That was well worth it, because they've got all these life skills, they got all this knowledge, they know how to problem solve, they know how to do this, their reading is immaculate, their math is immaculate, their science, whatever you figure is strong because where they're going to go or where they want to go, their English is great, whatever. Or is it just $150,000 was spent on my child, this child, and I don't see the benefit from it at all? Because then if you talk to homeschooling parents and kids who have been homeschooled or are homeschooled or home education, I prefer being home educated because it's not really a school. In that sense, if you compare, you can look at all over, you can look at statistics and you can look at things that have been looked into where on an average, a high average, the homeschooling students, if you want to call it homeschooling, home education students, get so much higher on tests. They're so much more courteous. They're so much, more ready. They're so much better at problem solving, at life skills, fill in the blanks. I'm not saying all, but that's the average and a high average of that. Why is that? Well, maybe it has something to do with if you have a child here and they have their interests or their focus or what they care about, or there's things that they don't care about, whether they're boy, girl, they want to do these certain things, these other certain things, that doesn't matter. But what's their interest? What's their strength? What's their goal? What's their focus? What's their ambition? If you're in a scenario where you're home educating, you can focus on those and you really improve those skills. And then maybe once they get so far along, then they're, well, I'm going to try something else. So let's focus on that. Or maybe there's like, no, this is it. This is my stronghold. This is where I'm going. So let's just keep advancing me as much as you can. So by the time they're 18 or 16 or 14 or 20, they are so much further, so much more advanced than they would be if they were stuck in an indoctrination camp. I call K through 12 education. And education's lightly, that's in quotes. So anyways, is it just a blown up daycare program with indoctrination? Or is it a blown up indoctrination camp program with daycare on the side? I don't know, but I'm betting that it's that way. And why? Well, because the way you can feed your information that you want your citizens and your future generations to, devour and gobble up and take at heart and change their views and change their emotions and change their, focus and change their future. If you start when they're young and you start feeding them all this information, indoctrination, and all these things, and getting it to look at things a certain way, which is the way that government wants them to look. And never mind the parents, never mind the families, never mind if they belong to a religious, kind of background, a religious family. Never mind that. Never mind if there's a business that's owned by family members. Never mind that. It's all about what we're trying to teach you. I say that lightly. Indoctrinate you with. And what you need to do for the years you're in K through 12 is you're going to start to memorize. You're going to memorize things. You're going to memorize these books. You're going to memorize these figures. You're going to memorize these facts. And I say that lightly too because most of them are not facts. But that's all it is. So $150,000 that it costs for a child in government education, public education, is that a waste? Yes. Is it worse than that? I say yes, because not only have the children been in government schools for this long, really getting no skills, really not. I mean, there's always argument, well, you got to socialize because it's good for, socialization. Well, that's a bunch of BS, because there's nowhere else in life that they're going to be once they're out of that scenario, that they're going to be in some sort of classroom setting or some sort of building setting or some sort of setting where they're around people that's all their ages, 30 other kids, hundreds of other kids that are all their same age within a year or two. It doesn't happen. Life, you're working with young kids, old kids. If you own a business or you're working for a business, whatever, there's old adults, there's young adults, there's big kids, there's small kids, there's young kids, there's old kids. It doesn't matter, because they're just getting through this thing called life, and that's there's no age to that. So how does that teach to develop these children? It doesn't, in my opinion only. It's an indoctrination camp with a little bit of babysitting on the side, and that's the way it's sold. And then the control aspect to pull them and pull control away from their children, from the parents' children, and say the state has these beings now, these young adults, these young humans, and now we will dictate, we will teach, we will train, we will, change their minds. We will get them to focus on what we want. And it's, never mind you guys. You guys have no more power, no more say in this, because we're the school, we're the education system, we're whatever. So I'm running by this. You think about that. So if you have $11,500 a year, if they're homeschooled, and let's say you're paying that a year, you're paying some in taxes, and so is everyone else, paying or getting it taken from you. It's a better way to put it. Would that not be better spent on other things that's needed for the community, for the state, for anything underneath the envelope of the government, underneath the umbrella of the government? If you gotta be in a government system, that money's spent way better on all the children that, fatherless, motherless children, homeless people, people with, mental illness, people with just illness, they can't take care of themselves, X, Y, Z. Or if you don't want to pay for that, maybe the children get $11,500 per year from age 5 to 18, and then the parents will decide what they're going to do with that. And it can only benefit the kid, like it benefits the child. So they can't use it to buy cars or pay for stuff in their homes, whatever. It can only be used for their children. So maybe if that's the case, maybe they want to spend that much money on precious metals one year, or that much money on, a home or rentals or whatever, and maybe get them in the whole thing of renting places out. Because they're getting this money, why not allow them to do that and allow them to try to build and try to get a business and try to get something set up and something growing. So by the time they're 22, 23, 24, they've got all this stuff from all these years they've lived where they've accomplished things, they've learned things, they've grown. Because that does not happen in government schools whatsoever. And I might be just blabbing and saying stuff, repeat it. And I do through all the videos, but I feel it's a big issue, especially with all the control that's happened, they've taken away from parents for these last 2 years, 2+ years. If anyone is still putting their kids in government education, I think they really need a stern talk to, and they really need to really think about it. Why am I doing this? Am I doing this because I need a daycare? Am I doing this because I work, my husband works where I work, and my wife works? Is that why we're doing this? Because it doesn't seem like they're benefiting really. They might learn about cells of a plant. They might learn about, these other, things that really don't matter in the survival essence, of what life is. Yes, if you want to get involved with that, sciences, plants, that kind of stuff, that's an avenue to go down if they're interested, if they're good, if that's a wish, that's a dream. But for other kids, it might be something which they just want to be a homemaker. They want to be a contractor. They want to be a mechanic. They want to be in finance, whatever. So what does that matter that they've learned that? What does that matter that you focused all these months, these years, these weeks, this time on this frivolous stuff, other than you need to get some sort of lesson plan for them so you can justify your job to keep going to school, to teach, and I say that lightly, and so they come to school, so then we make sure we get paid for them being here in school actively. And how do we get paid? We get paid from the taxpayers. And it's not taxpayers. We get paid from the money that's stolen from the citizens. Basically is what it is. So I have nothing more to say on this. I wrote a few little things down, and I just want people to think about this. Think about it. If they're at home every day, Monday through Friday, and just say 2 hours a day, and you spend those reading with them, or they're spent learning stuff on the internet. I mean, the internet's endless now. Or even go to the library, or reading encyclopedias, or reading other literature, or learning how to build stuff, or whatever it is, learning how to bake stuff, cook stuff. If they're doing that, just 2 hours a day, maybe 3 hours a day, and they're reading on top of it, or doing some arithmetic, or whatever, wouldn't that get them so much further along and so much more advanced than what they are by the time they're in 10th grade? Think about it. If you have children who have been through this or are going through this, think about their life skills, their knowledge, and what they have by the time they're in 10th grade, 8th grade, 12th grade. Think about it and say, if I would have had 2 to 3 hours a day, Monday through Friday, that we could spend and focus on things, or just give them a whole gamut of stuff, would they be more advanced? Would they be further along? Would they be more ready for life than they are by the time they get out of the indoctrination camps, or by the time they're towards their end of the indoctrination camps, or even when they're in the middle, by the time they're in 5th grade, 6th grade? Just things to think about. Sorry I blabbed on about this, but I really feel strongly about this. I see when I pulled my kids when they were little, they advanced so much from there. And then them just talking to their friends, and then seeing some of their cousins, and seeing the kids around that are their age that are still stuck in indoctrination camps, government schools. My kids are so much further along, and we get compliments. We've gotten compliments from the adults and even some of the children around. Why do they know so much? Or how do they know that? Or why do they care about that? Or why does he talk like that? Why are they so kind? Why are they so respectful? I'm like, I don't do anything special. I just, tried to teach the best I could, or tried to allow them to learn and research the best I could and support them. But anyways, so if you like this, like, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching. And as always, stay vigilant for yourself, your family, protect your health, and protect your wealth.